you Patriots doing?
We are doing great, Chris. How are you doing?
Doing all right. Feeling a little bit better.
Okay.
And it only took 4 or 5 days, and then the jail decided to turn on the AC. So now, for some reason, it's like it's 68 degrees in here again.
Nice.
So, or it got colder outside, and therefore the AC works better now. I don't know.
It is a bit cooler outside the last few days.
Okay, well then the DC jail cares just as much as they do usually, which is not at all. I just read. Excuse me, by the way. I just read the President Trump and Tucker interview. That was good. No, it was. It's funny. You start reading it, and it's like President Trump. And you just read the things typed out that he's saying, and you can't help read it in your mind,
right?
In his voice,
of course.
Only 2,000 by that point.
Yeah, by that point they may have rounded up quite a bit more. So the number is growing daily, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, anything for distraction.
Correct.
Nicole
and I were just discussing the $11 million we're each going to get whenever y'all get pardoned. And we thought, we should just buy a bunch of islands, and then everybody can have their own island, and then each island can grow different, things that are, sustainable for all of us. Then we can each just share all of our foods and our system. Yeah, and we'll just have our own little community of islands, and we'll call it something amazing, whatever. And yeah, with our 11.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend of mine, and he said, I still do want to open up that gun range in New Jersey. I'm like, yeah. I was like, that's it's probably going to be the only reason why I ever go back there.
You couldn't do any worse than what's happening there now, so.
Right? I mean, hey, listen, that big tooth behemoth. And the fact is that, we actually thought, back in the day, we were like, Christie's all right for, a Democrat, he's a New Jersey Republican, which is really a Democrat anywhere else.
Hey, Chris, this is Helena Gibson, and I was just listening to you say that perhaps one day, if that shooting range gets up and running, that you would consider going back to New Jersey to run for governor. I think all you Jan Sixers should be running for office in some capacity, because you are the heroes that we need to put in place to straighten up this country and get things back on track.
Thank you so much. I couldn't agree. Not pat myself on the back and say, hey, I couldn't agree with you more, but not just the J6ers, but everyone needs to start, and which it has been happening. Everyone needs to start, whether it be for mayor or anything else. Before J6, I had every intention of running for mayor. I actually had a Facebook page called North Brunswick March for the Thin Blue Line, and I had, before it was the cool thing to do, and people started doing half blue line, thin blue line, half Trump rallies. I just had I was sick and tired of the BLM rallies, happening in my neck of the woods. I didn't know if they were going to be peaceful or not. And our police are pretty, they're pretty great people, as far as, the most part. You're breaking the law, they're gonna bust you. But I've seen, firsthand, I've seen a really, really, I'll leave race out of it, but I just saw a really, really drunk individual. And now it's going to be hard to of it, but there was also a language barrier as well because the two people didn't speak Spanish, and this dude was trying to do backflips and while he was handcuffed, and he thought he was like Jackie Chan, and these two cops just like, held him there. And I was like, this is great, like usually, and people are holding out cell phones, and I'm like, what do you think you're going to get here? Because all you're getting is like how to be a cop, and these guys could have easily slammed this dude, down and threw him around, and it was just, that's what I saw when dealing with the cops. And then, but of course, the 17-year-old or 18-year-old, black, I don't even know what they are anymore as far as gender, or even, I know they're not millennials because I'm a millennial technically, but Gen whatever, of course they're oppressed and this and that. So they had to have their BLMs because, when they're smoking, whatever, selling drugs or doing this or having illegal guns with them, and the cops bust them, then, it's only because they were black, of course. So, but I did have a pro-cop rally, and, it was started to rain and stuff, and I think like 10 people showed up. One woman was in a wheelchair, and we had this pro-cop rally, and I had, I spoke on top of my truck, but the BLM people heard of my pro-cop rally, so all of a sudden there was like 5 or 6 different BLM rallies scheduled for the same day. Yeah. These cops did an amazing job because I was getting death threats. Of course, I was getting death threats on Facebook and stuff. And of course, I didn't retaliate at all. I didn't talk back to them or egg them or anything like that. No, not me. So, it went back and forth, but the police did an amazing job and, kept us safe. We were basically surrounded by cop cars because someone had threatened to run us down with their Dodge Charger. So they did a great job and everything else. And that's who the J6ers are. We aren't, now we're being labeled as terrorists and this and that. Understand how one-sided this town is. This town is so corrupt. It needs to be completely taken apart. Parts need to be removed. People need to be removed.
Right.
And it needs to be put back together. Unfortunately, that's the only way that it's gonna. To know, I guess you have to spend a lot of time here to really understand fully the corruption that is actually involved in this. For 2.5 years, I was pre-trial. I was denied my discovery. I have never gotten evidence.com access. Everyone else here has, or is actually, I can't say everyone, but there were quite a few people who were here. I was moved around from 9 different jails. As soon as my discovery was here, they shipped me out. As soon as Marjorie Taylor Greene showed up, and they weren't feeding me. I mean, I've gone months and months and months and months without food. Thank you, Patriots, for providing, the necessary commissary. Sometimes I lived off of that commissary for 5 months straight. Literally did not get a tray for upwards of 3, 4, 5 months in a row. It was, like everyone knows, I lost 200 pounds, not total, but lost 30 here, lost 55 in Northern Neck, lost 30 here again, lost 20 to 30 in New Jersey. It was a lot, and we have been absolutely railroaded. We should have never been here to begin with for trial. We can't get a fair trial here. I have a Trump-appointed judge, and he came forward in the beginning and said, how are we supposed to prosecute these January 6ers like you guys, or like everyone wants to prosecute them. They did nothing different than the riots in 2016 and the riots in 2020. They did nothing different. Okay, in 2016, they broke into and broke and damaged and did this and whatever to federal property in DC. In 2020, they did the same thing. There was the riot at the White House. How are we supposed to do this? And he goes crucified in the media. And then all of a sudden, January 6th was the worst thing that ever happened in American history. And he has, I still believe, one of my ex-lawyers called him a Nazi. Another ex-lawyer called him, a pedophile, and that was the only way that he was going to that was the only way that he was a judge so young. He had dirt on someone else, and it has to be through the pedophile ring of Washington D.C., which is huge. I don't know about all that. I think that he has, a metaphorical gun pointed to his head, and he's being told, this is what you're going to do. And even though he knows it's not right, he's being forced to do it. And all of these judges are. You look at the Proud Boys trial right now, all right? Did it go, has it already been released that they might get a new sentencing?
Well, I know that there's been a sentencing disparity with Ethan, and I know that Jack Smith is arguing that, so I don't know exactly what's going to end up happening with that. I know that Judge Kelly definitely, he accumulated the numbers wrong. He put the terrorism charge on the wrong, the terrorism enhancement on the wrong charge is what he did. And
and you know what? And that gavel already swung. Right. So he screwed up, and these guys thought I was crazy. And I said, your lawyer should tell him, no, screw you. You know what? Screw you. You screwed up. Unless you're going to take it off and leave it off, then admit to the world that you screwed up, that your hatred was so vast that you couldn't be, that you couldn't do your job properly. Well, where that goes with, hey, listen, it needs to be a mistrial. We all need mistrial, because these judges cannot do their job the correct way. Even if they're going by the book and saying, hey, basically the law is this, right? You broke a window. It should be 6 months. Okay, fine. Well, we're going to give you 6 months. And guess what? You're going to serve that 6 months? That wasn't the precedent. You guys in D.C.
You have 1 minute remaining.
You guys in D.C. had already given the precedent. And the base, which was, hey, 5 days in jail and we're going to let you all go. Right. We're not even going to look for you at all. So... Right. Once you allow these things to happen across the country, people don't get arrested, and it just becomes willy-nilly, and you don't expect it to come to your front door, meaning the lawmakers. You allowed this to happen. If anyone's to blame for January 6th, besides the FBI, the CIA, it's the lawmakers themselves. Hate to say it.
All right, well, we're about to get cut off, Chris.
It's the truth. All right. Love you guys.
Good to hear from you, Chris. God bless you. Stay strong, Patriot.
Thank you for